Welcome back to Hey Miss Parker, and we are on part two of this Q&A session. I didn't know this was going to feel like this.
This is easy.
If you guys have questions that you would like me to answer, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I am going to let Mr. Parker determine which ones he's going to ask because he is the interviewer. And these questions have been, like we said yesterday, questions he wanted to ask, he thinks will be kind of beneficial to talk about and tell people my story. So we're going to go to day 2 and three questions. Another set of 3 questions.
I ain't gonna hold you. I don't even know how many questions I asked last time.
You asked 3.
Was it 3?
You asked 3. But I'm gonna let you ask as many as you want, and then whenever you decide that's enough for this session. Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
You. So unfortunately, in high school, you did get pregnant.
Yes.
So how did you feel once you found out you were? How'd you feel when you found out that you were pregnant? And obviously you're still a teenager at this point.
Yeah.
Also, that can be a little scary. So how did you feel once you found out that you were pregnant?
So I found out I was pregnant 2 months before I graduated from high school. And you always think you're gonna be the one that it does not happen to. It just seems like it's something that is not going to happen to you. And I had this whole plan of wanting to go to college and moving away from my hometown and this whole thing. So it was a blow. And the first person I told was my grandmother. My cousin did go with me to find out. And of course, it was one of those things, I'm never going to eat again and I'm going to starve myself. That's not what happened. So I went straight to my grandma and I just walked in the house and I was just like, I gotta tell you something. And she was like, I already know. And it was like, what do you mean you already know? She was like, I already know. Your plate is in there on the stove. Go eat and then we'll talk about it later. So I went and grabbed my plate. Like this was like 2 hours as I found out. And I sat down and talked to her and then I was like, I have to tell my mother. I have to tell my mother because I graduate in 2 months and I had this whole plan about what I was going to do after high school and I have a kid on the way. And I didn't tell her. I told her, but I didn't tell her. I took the note that I got from the doctor and she was in her room asleep and I slid it under her door. And I went in my room and I hid. And I don't know what her thought was. And I guess that's a conversation I should probably have with her now that we're grown. But I don't know what her thought was. But I do know it was like for at least 4 months. For at least 4 months, there was like silence between us. It was not a lot of like words being said. So it was kind of lonely. Because I really went through that whole pregnancy by myself with a whole lot of other stuff that came with it. Finding out about a medical diagnosis I had. And the only reason why I found out about it was I was pregnant. So I've always felt like if it wasn't for me having Destiny, anything could have taken my life. And it could have been something so simple, but it took me to find out I was pregnant with her to find out that I had something that I had lived my whole life with and never knew. So it's kind of like the yeah.
So don't know how freely you want to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You said there was silence in between you and your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Did that eventually get better, or was there always some resentment? Like after the 4 months when y'all decided to actually speak with each other, was it like a pat on the back, I understand, or was it like We just got to deal. We just
No,
got to deal with
it's a situation that you deal with. I don't think any mother wants to hear that their child has, is pregnant. So I definitely understand from her side how she felt, being a grandmother before the age of 40. I'm sure she kind of, she had me at 19, so I'm sure she kind of like had little flashbacks about that. And just hoping that it's something that you don't have to go through and you don't have to like worry about with your child. So I know there was a level of disappointment there. It got better, but I think it turned into the best once Destiny was here. Because it was almost like she was kind of the glue that brought our relationship back together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is a good place to stop.
Oh, okay. Only two.
There was only two?
There was only two.
Well, you expanded.
I did.
You did expand.
Yes.
Bonus question.
Okay.
I know you mentioned your grandmother was the first person you told.
Mm-hmm.
Like my grandma was almost my everything.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma made everything to
Absolutely.
me. Would you like to expand on people who don't know you,
Mm-hmm.
how important your grandmother was in your life,
Yeah.
In your early life,
Mm-hmm.
when you grow up to be an adult, and even after she passed, the kind of the way her not specter,
just her
being, like what did she mean to you overall in your life?
Yeah.
From beginning to even now.
Yeah. Grandmothers were different when we were growing up. I'm not saying that they're not just as strong or not just, my grandmother was kind of different. She had a very hard, from what I can remember, like, my grandfather passed away 2 months before I was born. And I just kind of like remember it just being her. I never met him. I just remember it just being her. And I remember it's her and all of my cousins. Every summer we were at grandma's house, or if we needed something, we were at grandma's house, or our parents had to work one of their many jobs. We were at grandma's house. So grandma's house was a staple. And grandma's house was like the nucleus of the family. And she really held us together. And I know, like, people praying grandmas, that is a real thing. And when they're not here anymore, it's almost like, who's gonna pray for me now? Because I know if nobody else prayed for me when they went to bed at night, my grandma got on her knees and she prayed. And I know I lived with her for a little bit, and I saw her every day. Every single day I saw her, until I moved to Raleigh. And then when I moved, I felt so much guilt. And that was about around the time that I met you. And I was like, I gotta go back home, because I felt so much guilt because I felt like I left her. And it wasn't long after that she got sick. And I really wanted to go back home because I felt like, I took the grandkids from her, I took my kids from her. They saw her every day. Her and my son had a super close relationship, and now they're not here. But I remember telling her I'm leaving, and she was like so proud and happy that I moved. And she was just like, she didn't try to deter me from leaving. Like, she just knew it was going to be life-changing for me. And I remember having conversations with her about it, but I felt like I had let her down because I remember all the time she was there for me, no questions asked. And when it was time for me to leave, I felt like I just abandoned her. And that's not what it was, but in my mind, I couldn't take that away, because that was a nucleus. That was my grandma, So yeah, my grandma meant everything, and it broke me down when she passed. Even though we were prepared for it, we knew it was coming, I still had a hard time with it.
Yeah, I met her more than a handful of times. She was always welcoming to me, and it always reminded me of my relationship with my, me and my grandma. So I knew how much she meant to you, and she had been sick multiple times, right? And she had fought back, every single time.
Yeah.
So there's a saying around here, like, I know the women in the family, like,
strong women.
you come from a line of strong women. So, and she was the strongest of them. So,
Yeah, I remember the last true conversation we could have, and me telling her that we were going to get married, and she was like, "That's good." And that was one of the last
because I remember it was relationship we had. And she told you're like, "I'm done with it. I'm done. I'm done."
Yeah, I'm not doing this no more.
And what did she say?
You gotta be patient and give him time. He's coming around.
And what happened?
You came around, but it wasn't at the time I needed it to happen. But she told me, she was like, "He gonna be all right." She was like, "Just be patient and give him time."
That just speaks to I know kind of the wisdom gets kind of overused, but it was real wisdom.
Yes, because she did not mind telling me when it wasn't raining. Okay, she "What you doing? That's enough. Let it go. This ain't the one." She didn't mind telling me when it wasn't the one. But with you, she was just like, he's gonna be all right. Just give him a moment. Give him a moment. And because I don't have patience with nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to wait. I had a plan, and I just didn't have that time. But with you, she was just like, "Nope, give him time. He's gonna be all right." And you was all right.
And I think that worked out.
I think it worked
out for us. So
it did.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And this is now where we will see you in part 3.
Yes, we will see you in part 3. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.